The JP Morgan lawsuit went from completely bizarre to absolutely insane in just a few weeks, because now we've gone from a serious Wall Street scandal to a what the hell am I even reading anymore? Because kind of as expected, more and more insane details are coming out about this story. At this point, I can't even tell if this feels more like a real lawsuit or an extremely deranged soap opera about Wall Street. Because again, it feels like it's every single day a new detail comes out and makes the story even messier. One minute, there are allegations about blackmail, various substances, and career threats. And then the next minute, there's reports that the accuser allegedly lied about his father dying, anonymous witnesses describing drunken threesome invitations, and a legal chatbot conversation that looks disturbingly way too similar to the lawsuit that's been filed. So this whole lawsuit, it turned heads when it first dropped. It's been out for a few weeks now, with the big headline being that a former JP Morgan banker named Sharanu Rana filed a lawsuit against executive director Lorna Hajini. And the reason this lawsuit turned so many heads is because of how over the top the allegations are. If this is real, this is insane, because people just don't know how to treat this as of right now. Like, is this some crazy Wall Street case or one of the most bizarre Wall Street stories ever? And that's the thing, because as of right now, it's a he said, she said. So everything is currently up in the air and there's been no formal judgment. So again, disclaimer, all of this is alleged. We are just talking about allegations and speculation here. But according to the lawsuit, you have Rana claiming Hajini spent months allegedly harassing, blackmailing, slipping him stuff that he shouldn't be having, and coercing him into situations while they worked together at JP Morgan. And those situations would be 18 plus situations. And the actual quotes in the lawsuit are what made this thing go insanely viral. And the dude dropped some new name calling that I've never heard of, like my fish head wife. Excuse me, what? And then, of course, the alleged quote, "Your wife doesn't have cannons like mine." Okay, what woman uses the word cannons? And at one point in the lawsuit, the dude alleges that she said, "If you don't F my brains out tonight, I'm going to sabotage your promotion." Then you have another quote that says, "I own you." And the lawsuit also claims that she made racial comments towards him, allegedly calling him brown boy. So I guess he's alleging that she thinks she's Nav or something like that, because that's the only person I've ever heard use that term. But again, I mean, what is this lawsuit? And the thing is, when this first dropped, people thought this was going to be a massive lawsuit against JP Morgan, because I'm pretty sure he also named JP Morgan in the lawsuit itself, because if any of this is true, this is a massive problem. Because here we have what? Abuse, coercion, abuse of power, workplace retaliation, racial harassment, and all of this is of course inside of like one of the largest banks in the world. So that's not good. But obviously JP Morgan came out against these allegations, and the bank said, following an investigation, we don't believe there's any merit to these claims. And they also added something that became really important later, because they said, while numerous employees cooperated with the investigation, the complainant refused to participate and declined to provide facts that would be central to support his allegations. And according to Hajini's lawyer, she'd never even been to the location where the alleged assault supposedly took place. So right away, both JP Morgan and Hajini are basically taking the position of, hey, this is all fabricated. But then, of course, the internet grabbed this story and just launched it into a whole different dimension, because, I mean, the allegations are just so bizarre, it's hard to look any other way. So now, of course, you have AI-generated videos started circulating online showing fake romantic scenes between Rana and Hajini, and, of course, there were Pepe memes, there was misinformation piling up, the whole 9 yards. Then you had some people saying that Rana had retracted the story entirely, but according to the Wall Street Journal, that wasn't true. The lawsuit had been temporarily removed and then refiled. But I'm even struggling to verify that that actually happened to begin with. So I don't know. At the very minimum, as of right now, it doesn't seem like anything has really happened in the lawsuit. But then, of course, you had other people claiming that Hajini was directly his boss. And again, that's not true. But one of the biggest contradictions in this whole story is if the accuser is even married or not. And this sounds like a random internet detail at first, but obviously this matters a whole bunch, because the wife is mentioned a whole lot throughout this lawsuit. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most viral quotes here is, "I bet your little fish head wife doesn't have these cannons." Excuse me, what? So the lawsuit repeatedly frames him as a married man whose relationship is being used against him. So naturally, people started to try to figure out, okay, who's the wife? And somehow the reporting spiraled out of control, because some outlets actually reported that Rana was married and had children. One article was literally titled, Rana's wife and kids, meet his family and children. And then it states official biographies have been confirmed that Chirayu Rana is married. But then only 2 paragraphs later, it admits that there's no public records, no identity, no photos, no names, and no confirmation of children whatsoever. What's going on here? So the article essentially just goes, yeah, he has a wife and family, followed immediately by, well, we can't actually prove that. Okay then. Meanwhile, you have the Wall Street Journal, which is probably one of the more credible sources covering all of this. They're saying that Rana is unmarried. So, hold up, what? But it gets worse because other things are allegedly being dug up about this guy as well. Because obviously, if he's not married, everyone's question is, hold up, who is he talking about in the lawsuit then as his wife? Because obviously, if he doesn't actually have a wife, that becomes a massive credibility problem for his lawsuit. But to be clear, you know, unmarried doesn't automatically mean he couldn't have a girlfriend, fiance, partner, ex, or so on and so on. But it seems like he doesn't have a wife. But as I mentioned, it kept getting worse for the guy because as people started digging more into this dude, then they suddenly found a whole chatbot history with him. Because this dude has apparently been asking a legal chatbot about a very similar story months before he even filed this lawsuit. The only problem was it was a different name and a different bank. And apparently he did work at that other bank. So, I don't know what's going on there. And when I say similar, I mean almost the exact same allegations. So, according to screenshots that started circulating online, Rana allegedly described a scenario where he was being assaulted, put under the influence, manipulated, and abused by a superior at a major Wall Street firm. But again, this wasn't JP Morgan. This was a different employer that he also worked at. Oh, and also in this case, the alleged abuser was not a woman, it was a man. So, same type of story with the same power dynamic, but different company and different person. And if any of this is true, suddenly it doesn't look that much like someone is sharing their trauma. It more looks like they're trying to workshop and figure out the best story to tell for the biggest possible lawsuit. Now, obviously, people started debating this. Some argued, hey, maybe he was just changing identifying details while asking for legal advice, which could be fair. But others pointed out, no, this isn't just like 1 or 2 harmless details changed out. No, they're changing the company, changing the gender dynamics, changing major parts of the story. Things are not adding up now. And again, in a lawsuit this explosive, credibility is everything. And there's more things that came up about his credibility that don't look too good. Because that discovery came at the same time people started realizing that the lawsuit itself temporarily disappeared from the court docket. So the lawsuit was reportedly removed for corrections and has now been refiled. So we officially know what corrections he made. And there is a big correction because it's a refiled version which included anonymous witness statements. One witness claimed Hajini was in her birthday suit while trying to pressure him into joining a threesome with her and Rana. According to the filing, the witness allegedly heard Rana pleading, no, 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 you have to leave. I'm not going to do this. Please stop. So again, I mean, that's crazy. And obviously a witness could help this case, but then because the story is never ending, more information came out about Rana that made him look, once again, not very trustworthy. Because according to reporting in the New York Post, Rana allegedly told JP Morgan in late 2024 that his father passed away. And the report said that he was allowed to work remotely and later took extended paid leave. And coworkers reportedly thought he was going through a genuine tragedy. And apparently teammates, including Hajini, even sent him flowers. The only problem with that is the New York Post literally contacted his father in Virginia. He's alive. And according to the article, his father said, I don't know anything about it. He didn't talk with us or anything. He's my son. He's a good guy. That's a quote from the father. Okay, that's a massive credibility issue. So that would mean that he allegedly lied to an employer about a parent dying while also building up this lawsuit. So Rana allegedly exhausted multiple forms of leave between March and May while this draft was being completed. One source quoted in the article literally says, you can tell that he was trying to play the system. And last time I reported on this, I mentioned that he was seeking $1 million to settle this internally with JP Morgan instead of going public. And while I thought that was crazy, well, it gets crazier because according to the Wall Street Journal, JP Morgan did actually offer Rana $1 million to settle this internally. And apparently, JP Morgan did an internal investigation, found that no abuse had happened, but in order to avoid this being public, still offered Rana $1 million to settle. So why would Rana go public with all this then? Well, it might have something to do that he was actually trying to get $22 million to settle the claims internally. $22 million. Wow, that's some buku bucks. That's crazy. That's silly money. But I guess this is why people are now divided on Rana. Because depending on which article you read, he's either a deeply traumatized whistleblower or someone who's plotting a crazy scheme. According to former classmates and coworkers, Rana was ambitious basically from the beginning. He bounced through major firms like Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, Carlyle, Apollo-related companies, and eventually JP Morgan. But multiple former coworkers also described him as confrontational, aggressive, and difficult to work with at times. And apparently at one company, coworkers allegedly complained that he yelled at them after receiving criticism. But there's also accounts from people who describe him as reliable. But I guess it's true that a bunch of different people, especially in a workplace, can know different versions of the same person. But the reporting around Hajini also shows that she was viewed internally as a model employee and a rising star at JP Morgan. And apparently, she had even participated in initiatives supporting women pursuing long-term financial careers. And people who talk about the two of them together say they work together regularly, and they socialize together, and they texted each other memes and SoundCloud links. And then, of course, sitting in the middle of all this is JP Morgan, probably sitting here right now wishing all of this just did not exist. And now, the whole thing is headed straight to the most important phase, court, because now they have a preliminary hearing scheduled for May 26th. And this hearing could be massive because, as of right now, both sides are kind of at the standstill. Rana's attorney says, "We look forward for the truth and the facts coming to light through the court proceedings." Meanwhile, JP Morgan and Hajini are still aggressively denying everything. And if this lawsuit eventually falls apart in court, dude, I mean, the backlash against Rana is going to be unbearable. Because, clearly, these allegations became international news. And if all this is somehow false, this is life-ruining for Hajini. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I will absolutely be following this case closely. So if we get 50,000 likes on this video, I'll go to this trial. But other than that, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.